From Regent's Park, London, Black Cyclist Network, welcome to the GCN Show!
Welcome to the GCN Show.
Coming up this week, are we truly environmentally friendly as cyclists? Could we be doing even more? We discuss.
It's a very good question. We'll also be announcing the lucky winners of our Pirelli giveaway. ASO have announced there'll be no more podium girls at the Tour de France, and we've got all your usual favourites too. This week in the world of cycling, we learnt that whilst Arnaud Démare was cool, calm and collected en route to winning his third national French road title, his manager, Marc Madiot, wasn't. I think he was quite pleased with that, really.
Do you think? Yeah. We also learnt this week that GCN Italia presenter Alan Marangoni has finally found his calling.
He has. So he was at the Italian National Championships at the weekend, as you saw from that video, where he was helping out Bora Hansgrohe's Daniel Oss. And mightily pleased he looked with himself too, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Also this week, the countdown is nearly over. The Tour de France is just around the corner.
Well, it starts on Saturday, doesn't it? Down in Nice, and we cannot wait. We are particularly excited this year, not least because it's the first time that GCN has ever had live coverage of the Tour de France, which will of course be over on Race Pass. As ever, territory restrictions will apply, so please make sure you check what is available where you are. However, in all Race Pass territories, we are going to have short form highlights and also daily analysis in the form of a show called The Breakaway, which you'll find soon after each and every stage. Within that, we're going to have expert insight from none other than Bradley Wiggins. Sean Kelly is also going to be on it. Joanna Rousel on the very first day. Brian Smith will be making appearances there too, as will Orla Chenoy. Now, she was supposed to be hosting the whole thing, but unfortunately, due to travel restrictions and quarantine, etc., she was unable to come from the Netherlands over to the UK, but she will still be giving her opinion from the Netherlands, extra interviews and insight and in-depth features too. In her absence, I will be hosting each day, but don't let that last part put you off because it should be really good fun.
Should be great. Really looking forward to it. Anyway, moving on to our main talking point this week. How can we make our sport of cycling greener?
Which might sound like a reasonably strange question to ask, given that, as cyclists, you think of yourselves already as quite environmentally friendly because you'll make a journey on a bike as opposed to getting in a car or even on a bus. That said, there are quite a few aspects to the sport which aren't so good from that point of view.
Yes, that's true. One of the first things that spring to mind is the amount of water bottles cycling teams go through. They'll often have a new water bottle on every time they do a race, and they'd very rarely use the same water bottle twice.
Well, no, hardly ever, actually, in the top pro teams. It'd be interesting to know how many bottles a big pro team goes through in a normal season, wouldn't it?
A lot.
It must be a lot.
I do the maths, but I'm not very good at maths. So.
No, I don't think I'm going to be able to work it out right now. But a lot is the conclusion, isn't it?
lot.
Although some bottles nowadays are biodegradable. Actually, the elite ones that we use here at GCN are 100% biodegradable. And quite a large percentage of the pro peloton use those exact same bottles.
Yeah, even the cap's compostable, so the entire bottle.
Yeah, which is great, isn't it? One thing we do normally like to see happen is when the pro riders gently throw their spare bottles and empty bottles to the side of the road where there are fans, so that one of them can take them home as a memento.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, but I don't think it's going to be something we're going to see this year, given the current situation around the world, and we kind of want to stop the spread of the virus as much as possible.
Well, exactly, yeah. So I don't know what riders in the Tour are going to do this year because, like you said, you shouldn't be giving your used bottle to anybody on the side of the road. So presumably, they're going to have to take it to their team cars.
Maybe they can reuse them?
Never know.
I might do.
I don't think they will. We'll find out starting on Saturday on Race Pass. Anyway, another obvious one is wrappers. Bars and gel wrappers. I mean, things are getting better from that point of view, but it's still bad.
There's nothing worse than seeing leftover wrappers on the side of the road in the beautiful countryside.
No, awful. And it still does happen. Like I said, pros are getting better. You do see them now putting the wrappers into their back pocket more and more, but you still see some discarded, and you certainly still see some discarded during sportives, which I hate seeing. There are more green zones in races and sportives these days, which are those areas on the road where you can discard all of the wrappers that you've had so far, safe in the knowledge that they'll be picked up by somebody later. But you still see it on other parts, and there's no excuse for dropping your wrappers. Just put them in your pocket and discard them when you finished your ride.
If you do see someone do it, I definitely think you should call them out, because
Yeah.
there's definitely no excuses for it. It'll be good if we could have the bars not wrapped in plastic, if you could have like a little reusable bar wrapper.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you do with the gels though. I'm not sure how that would work.
Could be. Although actually Adam Hansen has his own sort of reusable gel pouch, which we found in his suitcase when he showed us that a couple of years ago at the Tour de France. I think he can store about 6 gels in this pouch, which he then just puts into his skin suit and uses during the stage. Obviously, there's no less waste because he still has to use the gel wrappers to put it in there, but at least he can discard those wrappers before he starts the stage.
Yeah. In GB Duro, which is a 2,000-kilometre self-supported bikepacking race from Land's End to John O'Groats on gravel, single track, road and everything in between, they have some pretty cool rules. One of which is that riders must not dispose of any non-biodegradable waste on the ride, meaning they have to carry all of that waste from start to finish.
Which is great, isn't it? And actually the winner this year, Josh Ibbott, posted a video on social media after he'd won, where he had all of that waste that he'd collected all in the one bag. And when he emptied it out onto the floor, really sort of hit home and put into perspective just how much waste a single cyclist can accumulate over what is a relatively short period of time.
You did well to fit all those wrappers into that little bag.
It's been compact, wasn't it?
Good packing. Another one, what about actually fixing our inner tubes rather than throwing them away and getting a new one?
Well, that is a really good one. And actually, I got lazy a few years ago and started throwing them away and buying new ones. But I have slipped back into repairing my inner tubes now. Firstly, it's actually fairly easy once you get into the routine, and we've got videos to help you out on that point if you need the help. But secondly, so much cheaper buying a patch instead of a whole new inner tube. I mean, cheapness is what I'm all about.
We know that.
Here we go.
Also, one of my pet hates is seeing inner tubes on the side of the road. Just take it home and surely it'll come in handy for something.
Well, that again, no excuse for discarding anything like that on the side of the road, is there? And we have seen, like I said, plenty of other uses for them, even if we do not repair them. I think we saw some wall art made once, and that was, well, looked better than we thought it was going to look.
You can't think of, inner tubes in like a picture. It's not, but actually pretty impressive.
Well, there's been a whole host of other uses for inner tubes over the years on Hacks and Bodges on the GCN show here, hasn't there? Including last year, I think, we had key rings, which were really cool.
However, if you really can't find a use for them or fix them, some bike shops will take them in for recycling.
Yeah, so do that, if nothing else. Another big problem we can face when trying to be environmentally friendly as cyclists is travelling to races or training camps or to sportives even, particularly if they're overseas. I know I clocked up a lot of air miles when I was getting to races as a pro rider, and I'd imagine it was the same case for you.
Yeah, definitely. But if you want to be a pro rider racing all over the world, you kind of have to travel.
Unless you ride to them, which could be quite difficult sometimes.
Yeah, I used to ride to my local crit, 45 minutes there, race, 45 minutes back. It was a good day training, but if you wanted to do Tour Down Under or something like that,
it'd be a bit harder.
Would it be possible?
Although that said, you were talking about the GP Duro earlier, weren't you? And actually, Svein Tuft rode to the start of that this year. Being Svein Tuft, he also rode across 3 countries to get to the start. Didn't actually finish it, but I think that's because he got ill.
It's probably because he rode to the start and knackered
probably,
himself
but then
out.
I think that is one of the rules of the GP Duro, is that you're not allowed to drive yourself there or get flights. It has to be either on a bike or in public transport. And that is to cut down on all the fuel emissions from flying and driving, which is a really great idea.
That's pretty impressive. I don't think I'd make it to the start line if I attempted that. But back in the day when Swain was a pro rider, he once rode to his team training camp from Canada to California.
I miss that guy in the pro peloton. He was always pretty unique, wasn't he? Well, that's not a bad idea in some sense, because often the day that you spend travelling to and back from a training camp is a wasted day, because you're not really training, obviously, but you're not really resting either. So I guess he got quite a few days training in before he even got there. Although it would depend on where the training camp was. I mean, for some of them, you might end up having to leave weeks in advance to get there on time.
Yeah, I don't think that's for me.
It's not an idea for you, that one,
No,
is it?
I wouldn't. We had training camps in Spain, Portugal. It'd take me a few months to ride there. Right, we'd love to hear from you. Do you have any suggestions or stories on how we can make our world of cycling a little bit greener? You can leave them in the comment section below.
Next up, your weekly GCN inspiration. 3 of you will win a prize each and every week on this segment of the show. All you need to do to put yourself in with a chance of winning one of those prizes is upload your best cycling photos to the GCN app, and we'll pick our favourite 3 each week, which is exactly what we've done today.
Yes, let's start with third place this week, winning the plant-based cycling book, and it is in from Richard Love. Standard day 1 arrival in Mallorca, dump gear, build bikes, and then a gentle spin to the lighthouse at Formentera, followed by a couple of mineral waters before standard day 2 in Sacalabra. I think that's one of my favourite rides in Mallorca.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed that we couldn't get to do our GCN event over in Mallorca this year, because we had a great time last year. And
Drinking mineral waters.
I've had at least 8 mineral waters myself.
Yeah, doing karaoke and a bit of bike riding as well. It was great fun, I have to say.
Waters.
But as I keep saying, I'm still recovering from it to this day. But that's a great photo. Nice one, Richie. We will send out that plant-based cyclist book to you as soon as possible. In second place, we have this from HARLEM. Cycling in Norway is the simple caption, and it doesn't really need much more description than that when you look at the waterfall in the background. Shorts and short sleeves though, in Norway, not something that happens particularly often up there, so it must have been a nice warm day. Looks brilliant. I mean, we need to do some more riding, I think, up in Norway, because it's just
beautiful.
such a pretty place to ride your bike if you get the weather right.
True.
Classic sweatshirt, black and white, on its way to you, HARLEM.
And in first place this week, winning the Complete Explore bundle, is Jason Alexander. Taking advantage of the quiet roads, bike packing our way through the Canadian Rockies to Jasper. First time bike packing and absolutely loved it.
Not surprised, given the roads and the countryside you got to go through and the weather it looks like you experienced as well, Jason. Absolutely stunning picture and a well-deserving first place this week. I love that.
Yeah, I'd love to go bike packing. I need to do a bike packing adventure.
Well, we can definitely think of a bike packing video that you can do, Manon, with Hank, probably. He'll put his hands up, no doubt. We'll sort that out. Any suggestions, leave them in the comment section just down below. But well done to all our prize winners this week on the GCN Inspiration segment of the show. As mentioned at the start, don't forget to keep uploading those photos to the GCN app. We'll pick 3 more of our favourites this time next week.
I'm worried what they're going to say now.
It's now time for cycling shorts.
We'll start cycling shorts this week with the news that the UCI have announced the first ever cycling esports world championships that will take place on the 8th to the 9th of December.
That's right. All of these World Championships will take place entirely on the Zwift virtual platform, with national federations set to pick their rosters of riders for each race.
The men's and women's race will take place on identical courses over exactly the same distances. The course details and routes will be available later this month.
The riders competing in it will do so remotely for this year at least, be that from their houses or indeed from their team training camps. And then the winners are going to receive themselves a rainbow jersey, virtually initially, but apparently they are going to get a physical rainbow jersey through the post as well, which I guess they can wear on their indoor trainer when they're competing at events next year.
That'd be good motivation for a turbo session, wouldn't it? Meanwhile, the Tour de France organisation ASO have brought the long-standing tradition of podium girls to an end. They'll no longer use podium girls to help with the jerseys and kissing the winners.
Instead, 1 male and 1 female will be on the podium after each stage to help with that podium protocol. But in general, it appears you are going to see far fewer people on the podium each day for obvious reasons, I guess.
More good news now in cycling during the COVID-19 pandemic. As we all know, bike sales have increased dramatically, but not only in entry-level bikes, but in performance bikes too.
Yeah, it seems to be across the board, doesn't it? These are figures that were compiled by the NPD group in the US. What they show is that in June of this year, the average price paid for a mountain bike compared to June of last year was up 92%. For road bikes, it was up 87%. For gravel bikes, it was up 144%. And for e-bikes, it was up a whopping 190% year on year.
It looks like people have saved all that money that they would have spent on gym memberships to buy a decent bike.
It's great, isn't it? Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Motion Lab have claimed they have made a breakthrough in chain performance.
That's right, with the biggest difference over a conventional chain apparently being the dual engagement aspect of it. That apparently increases the overall contact area between the chain and then the teeth from the chain rings or the cassette, which in turn means that there's a much higher efficiency between the two of them, more durability, and apparently it's lighter too. And I guess the best thing about all of this is the fact that these new chains are apparently they're compatible with most of the drivetrains already on the market, which means that you don't have to buy as many new bits and pieces.
That's always good. I shall seamlessly link onto the next topic, which is also tech related. Karoo are about to release their second Karoo head unit.
Yeah.
Which is available for pre-order.
The new units will be shipping from October. They've been 2 years in the making, apparently, and they boast what is the most high-definition screen of any cycling head unit currently out there, which should be good for me because presumably my eyesight is going to go downhill now that I'm over 40. But we'll have a first look for you coming very soon on the channel, so keep your eyes peeled for that.
And lastly, in tech this week, as one of the official partners of the Tour de France, Look have unveiled some very special pedals. The Keo Blade carbon ceramic pedals with the Tour de France stamped on both pedals.
Now, those of you who watched the GCN show last week will remember a story about Gretchen Ho. She is a former pro volleyball player who has recently set up an initiative in her home country of the Philippines to give away bikes to those most in need of them. Well, the new news is that she's now given away her first bike.
That's right, and the first recipient is a teenager boy that's been doing his dad's delivery job due to his dad being quite ill. Kane Ramos has been using rollerblades to do his dad's delivery job, but has now got a bike, which should make it quite a bit easier.
I love that story. More to come, presumably, from the Philippines from that point of view. But I've got another great story for you now from the US. So a gentleman there by the name of John Treffert of Knoxville in Tennessee bought an e-bike not that long ago and has since lost over 100 pounds, which is over 7 stone or almost 50 kilograms, which is quite immense. Now, the story is a familiar one, I guess. He put on a lot of weight and got quite unhealthy through having an office job and not exercising enough. So he decided to do something about it. Into Google, he typed bicycles for overweight old men with bad backs, and the results threw up a Day 6 Patriot, which he bought.
And the rest, as they say, is history. I love that Google search. John says that the bike gives him the confidence to go out and tackle steep hills near where he lives. Right, next up, some news from Wales.
Good news?
Well, no, actually. Found this article on the BBC, and there was plans for a new bicycle cafe to come to Cwmbran, but it was rejected because there wasn't enough space to park the cars.
Well, that's slightly ironic, isn't it? Anyway, just before we finish Cycling Shorts and start hack/bodge of the week, we are going to announce those very lucky winners of the Pirelli giveaway. So, Dan Deckers, Christian Harrison, Christopher Colster, Pete Masson and Connor O'Hara, you will all receive the Pirelli Tubeless tyres. So well done to all of you. It is now time for hack/bodge of the week, and we're going to start with this one that came in from Randall. 3D printed spacer to reduce gap. Specialised Alley Sprint headset leaves a 1.3mm gap at the bottom spacer. I designed and printed a spacer that closes the gap while still riding on the bearing surfaces properly, painted to match the fork. Well, Si obviously loves some 3D printing.
3D printing's quite cool.
It is quite cool, yeah. Bit of a show off, I think, if you can do 3D printing.
Yeah, I can't.
Personally, is my opinion. 1.3mm is not a huge gap, but it does look neater than it was. I'd say that was a marginal gain, but just by virtue of the fact that 3D printing has been utilised here, I would say hack. Well, 93% of the public also voted a hack on that one, so well done to you, Randall.
Next up, we have this one in from Cordurory. Still using the trusted CompuTrainer, and I wanted a rocker board. The rigid fit always gave me concerns about the stress on the frame. Quick Sunday project and 14 USD later, works great, so far realistic, comfortable and easy on the bike.
Well, first up, Corduroy, I'm not surprised that you stick with your CompuTrainer. I always wanted a CompuTrainer. It was like one of the first good smart trainers where you could sit in erg mode and it would set the resistance for you. So if you pedal slow, it just make it harder. If you pedal quick, it would make it easier, but you're at the set wattage.
Never heard of CompuTrainer before.
Yeah, probably geeking out here, but yeah, they were great trainers. Made even greater by the use of DIY tennis ball rockers, probably. I'd say you've done a rather neat job of that as well.
Yeah.
I'm going hack.
Yeah, hack.
Well, it's another GCN show full of hack so far.
Yeah.
2 from 2, and 77% of you went for hack on that one as well. So moving on, we have got this from Porchette. PVC surfboard carrier. Stumbled upon a crafty surfboard carrier made of various PVC fittings. It's on a lovely cruiser. I mean, it looks like a bit of a bodge, partly because it hasn't got the surfboard in it at that point. But I would imagine that does the job pretty well.
I think that'll work.
And I bet that the guy or girl on it looks incredibly cool anyway.
Yeah.
Even without the surfboard down the side. So, well, like I said, it does the job. I'm going to go with hack again.
Yeah, I'm going to go hack too.
Whoa, there's 53% went with bodge on that one, probably because of the use of PVC. I mean, had he 3D printed, or she,
that would completely different story.
That would be a definite hack from 98% of people, wouldn't it? But yeah, most of you saying bodge for that one.
Next in from SANDRAFLETCHER. My brother's seat. My brother always complains about his butt hurting during a ride. Rather than getting a proper bike fit, he does this.
Some sort of suspension.
I'm not sure what that...
Well, presumably that compresses and so gives some kind of suspension to the saddle, but I mean, surely there've got to be better designs out there than that one. I used to use an old USC suspension seat post on my mountain bike. Do you know that?
Fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the proof's in the eating of the pudding here, I guess. 92% of people said bodge for your brother's seat, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to...
I think there can be much better solutions. As you suggested, bike fit, different type of saddle, maybe some sort of suspension seat post, better chamois, but don't use that, it looks awful. Right, next up, we have this from Robert Hill. I think this is the last one for this week. Walking stick ready for the cobbled classics. When illness forces the use of a walking stick, I like the feel of bar tape to remind me of what I'm missing. It's an oldie but a goodie, isn't it? Lots of people using bar tape on crutches and the like. This one on a walking stick. What I will say is that is a hack because you have very neatly wrapped your walking stick.
It's very good wrapping.
It is very good bar tape wrapping, isn't it? What are you going with?
Definitely a hack. I love it.
Hack. Was a hack from me, and it is a hack from 87% of you out there as well. Right, well, that's the end of that section for this week's show. You know how to get involved, but just in case you don't, I shall remind you. All you need to do is upload your hacks and bodges to the GCN app. Caption competition now, your weekly chance to get your hands on a GCN Elite water bottle. Could be any colour. Actually, if you win, specify in your message which colour you would like, and we'll try and get that one out to you. All you've got to do, of course, is put a witty caption underneath in the comment section, and we'll pick out our favourite each week, and they will receive that prize. Last week's photo was of Greg van Avermaet from the Tour de Wallonie. We've got a winner, which you've chosen yourself, Manon.
We have, and it was James Miller. Greg van Avermaet helping out the grassroots in cycling.
Brilliant stuff. Make sure you get in touch with us on Facebook, James, with your address, and we'll get that sent out to you. This week's photo is also from that same race a day or two later. It's Owain Doull on a particularly rainy day, judging by that photo. I'll get you started. Shoes on the other foot, Owain. Sort of doesn't make sense really, but I've been sat here for an hour trying to think of one, and that was the best I could do. I'm absolutely confident beyond belief that you can make a better caption than that this week, so leave them in the comment section down below, and we'll pick a winner next week again. Now you laugh, just a laugh when I do the caption. We've picked out a huge number of great comments from the last week's worth of videos here on GCN. Before we let you know what's coming up next week, starting, Manon, with a few comments underneath last week's Superpowers show.
Yes. One from DH. I'm a simple man. Just give me an 800 watts FTP.
Yeah, not much to ask, clearly. Mark Baker said that his superpower would be the ability to will my bike to clean and fix itself. There was a common theme with a few people on that front.
That would be a good one. And another one in from Freygal. Ability to persuade my wife that spending 5,000 euros on a bike is a good idea. Good luck with that.
Yeah, nice one, Fergal. Meanwhile, underneath how to ruin your fitness, Mike, I think is referring to Hank's crash at the start of that video. Really don't know how he does it, to be honest. But he put, every 5 videos or so, Hank goes absolutely mad, and I love it. And that got 311 likes. I think we all love Hank's mad adventures, don't we?
Yeah, and another one in from Ian. Credit where it's due, Hank. That was the most authentic stage crash I've ever seen. I honestly
You think it was staged?
Yeah, I was there.
Oh, right, it was staged.
Yeah, he did it. He did 3 takes.
He likes attention, doesn't he, Hank?
Yeah, yeah.
Meanwhile, underneath Connor's video on why cyclists shave their legs and whether or not you should, Joshua Drew put, Connor's legs are so long that by the time he's done with one, the other one is hairy again, which I particularly liked. And Callum Spencer put, I bet brother-in-law Nigel was delighted not to be involved in that particular video. Right, coming up on the channel this week then, on Wednesday, we've got the Tour de France explained. So if you or anybody you know is just getting into cycling and racing, you can watch that video or send it over to them, and hopefully they'll get a fairly clear explanation as to what it's all about. On Thursday, 10 ways to build your cycling confidence, which is another great one to show people that are just getting into the sport. And on Friday, it's the Keto Diet Part 3 with Jeremy. This one is entitled, Does It Suck?
And on Saturday, we have the Merida reactive video with Ollie. On Sunday, we have drivetrain friction with Shimano. And then on Monday, a guide to Trainer Peaks.
Well, that's pretty much the end of this week's GCN show. With that big French race on the horizon now, though, we've got some new French t-shirts over in the GCN shop, which you will also see our GCN en Français presenters wearing too. So if you like the look of them, please go over there and take a closer look. Right, thanks very much again, Manon, for this week.
Thank you very much.
Not too much taking the mick out of me this week. It was
No, I used
slightly easier on me.
Yeah. I'll be back next week, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give it the thumbs up, and we'll see you again next week.